pretty ironic that in 2020 I predicted that Donald Trump would lose to a woman in 2020, and a woman didn't defeat Donald Trump in 2020. But here we are. Life comes at you very quickly. Um, Biden's dementia just got progressively worse, and a lot of Democrats and a lot of constituents lost faith in Joe Biden, and um, he had no other choice but to drop out. The decision wasn't up to Joe Biden, it was up to Joe Biden. And let me just say that I am very glad that Joe Biden acted in the best interests of all Americans, quite frankly, to forego a second term for Joe Biden and to do what's best for the Democratic Party, to do what's best for America. So I want to commemorate Joe Biden for doing the right thing by putting country over party. And I wish Joe Biden very well in his retirement. We all don't want to see dementia happen to anyone, whether it's your friend or your enemy. It doesn't matter. We all don't want to have dementia. It's a very serious thing. It's best for Joe Biden to save himself any more pain, to retire with some dignity, to take it easy and rest with his family. So, Joe Biden, best of luck to retirement. Thank you for your service to the American people. The record does not lie. Joe Biden raised the corporate tax rate from 15 to 20%. He created a lot of new jobs. He passed the CHIPS Act. He passed the Green New Deal. He created a lot of future high-paying jobs for America. Joe Biden also expanded Obamacare. Joe Biden also, in Alan Lichtman's key pointers, has not presided over a scandal, has not had a major foreign policy decision, has not presided over a recession. So it's still looking great for the Democrats that they're going to win the election. And and I didn't like Kamala Harris either, because I didn't like the negative energy that she had. I didn't like the terrible record as a prosecutor. But the fact is, democracy is still going to be on the line. Again, Donald Trump had his businesses bailed out by Russian oligarchs. Donald Trump is beholden to Vladimir Putin. Donald Trump and his running mate have said we would stop giving money to Ukraine. Donald Trump is going to make it easier for Vladimir Putin to try to retake the old USSR. The fact is, the situation out there in Europe is going to get far worse if Donald Trump is president. I'm certainly worried about World War III if Donald Trump were reelected. And then basically, if he bail, are they ever going to trust America again? They may decide to do less trade with America if we don't help them out against Vladimir Putin. It's going to have dire consequences in the future that will not only mean that the region will get worse if we stop contributing to NATO and Putin attacks and they take Ukraine and they take other territories. I know certainly if Donald Trump were elected, he would certainly make a peace deal with Russia, but we're just getting Neville Chamberlain all over again. If we concede and give Vladimir Putin Ukraine, he's not going to stop at Ukraine. He's going to invade NATO. That'd be a colossal foreign policy disaster. Over the long run, and it's going to cost more money to stop Vladimir Putin if we give him everything that he wants. So it is going to affect our allies' trust in America. They may never, ever trust America again. If we get invaded by, let's say, a whole force of troops, hypothetically speaking, if a demagogue took charge of Mexico and claimed California was part of Mexico, because it used to be part of Mexico, I don't think Europe would help us try to stop a Mexican invasion. I mean, I'm not saying it's happening, but you're talking hypotheticals, because the landscape can change at any time. Even 10 years ago, we go from a moderate like Mitt Romney to Donald Trump. So my general point is that the climate can change at any time. But needless to say, I don't think Kamala is going to make the same mistake as Hillary Clinton. One of the biggest issues, obviously, for Hillary Clinton is that the Bernie bros who decided to not vote or they decided to flip over from Bernie to Trump in 2016, one of the key problems that they had was they thought that Hillary Clinton was only concerned about women, that she didn't care about men at all. And that's certainly true because I'm with her is just BS. We're supposed to be president for all Americans. And that was Hillary Clinton's biggest mistake. And I'm sure that Bernie Sanders is going to come in there and tell Kamala, hey, you have to speak for everybody. You can't just speak for women. You have to speak for all Americans, regardless of gender, sex. You have to speak for all workers in America. So what Kamala Harris has to do is to continue to back the unprecedented legislative record for Joe Biden. He has done far more for working people than Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. It's time to embrace Joe Biden's record. He also expanded a bunch of popular tax credits for Americans too. So it doesn't just stop with the CHIPS jobs and the Green New Deal and those energy jobs. Joe Biden has passed some very popular tax credits for Americans that they like, and he has not raided our Social Security like the GOP has wanted to. So, and the main thing that I should say that is going to hurt the Republican Party is they're out of touch with Gen Z. So under this platform that they've got, they're against women's reproductive rights. They're against climate change action. A lack of climate change action affects you. It affects me. It affects every single person out there, especially people that are under 40. So, in my theory, has remained the same. What's going to cost the Republican Party this election is the fact that they ran an autocratic leader. He was very unpopular with the rest of America. People were just sick and tired of the Donald Trump reality TV show. That's why you saw many Republicans vote for Joe Biden in 2020. So basically, some Republican voters, straight Republican Party, across the ticket, except for the presidential race, because they fear that Donald Trump is a huge threat to democracy, and he is. He's idolized dictators. He said he wished he could be president for life like President Xi in China. Donald Trump has committed huge infractions against the Constitution, abuse of power, refusing congressional subpoenas. The Constitution is an impediment for Donald Trump to have absolute power. He has no respect for the Constitution whatsoever. Donald Trump wishes he could be king. Just take a look at his court cases. The main argument that his lawyers have had over his bankruptcy and criminal cases has to do with presidential immunity. Presidential immunity, I'm king of America. I'm not held under the same law that the rest of America is held. So that should be considered a slap in the face to all Americans. As Donald Trump thinks he is above the law. And we know we can't have that in the United States of America. Donald Trump will do anything to overthrow the Constitution. He almost did on January the 6th. He didn't care if people killed his vice president. All Donald Trump cared about was staying in power so he could hold on to executive privilege, presidential immunity. I don't have to go to court because I have presidential immunity. So I am very much worried about Donald Trump ending American democracy as we know. He will go after any political opponent that has attacked or criticized him in the past. His Department of Justice is going to go after anyone, regardless if they have committed any crime or not. Donald Trump just brings lots of negative energy with his attacks on Twitter because everything he says matters. If you're the president, then Truth Social will be reported on the news every single day. The media has certainly been biased in their coverage against President Biden. The media loves the ratings that come with Donald Trump. And media executives do love their tax breaks. So the president of Time Warner Cable, the CEO of New York Times, all these key figures have endorsed Donald Trump because it would give them a tax break and Donald Trump would give them the ratings. But the media doesn't decide the election. The people do. Now, the people can vote which puppet they want, but they still get a choice between two puppets bought and paid for by donors. So Joe Biden, he didn't drop out solely due to dementia, but donors were going to stop giving money to the DNC until Joe Biden dropped out. So certainly the donors, their voice matters more than the primary voters who voted for Joe Biden in the Democratic primaries. But Joe Biden and the entire Democratic Party has the full backing of the Latino community and the Black community. Just the other day, just yesterday, the Hispanic caucus in the Black Congress, the Black caucus in Congress endorsed Joe Biden. If they were still going to endorse Joe Biden, they're going to have the backing of Kamala Harris. These communities certainly hate Donald Trump. The Latino community is not going to forget Delta. The brown migrants crossing the border were poisoning the blood of America. Now, what I do like about Kamala, again, it doesn't matter if people don't like Kamala, because even if her approval rating is under 40%, Donald Trump's approval rating is also under 40%. So what good is Kamala's approval rating if Donald Trump's approval rating is also 35%? This shows that it is going to be a closer race than in 2020. But the American people, they still support Biden's agenda over Project 2025. Project 2025 means we don't give a damn about the environment. We're not going to do anything towards fighting against climate change. Project 2025 involves more tax breaks for wealthy people. You may see your effective marginal rate increase because Donald Trump and the far right are going to get rid of these popular tax credits that Biden instituted, and instead they're going to tax consumption. Now, the rich people save the vast majority of their money, so they don't pay any tax under sales taxes, because sales taxes are paid by we the people. Because we spend far more of our money, we have a higher propensity to spend every dollar that we make versus the wealthy people. The rich people would rather gut all income taxes because the income taxes are the money that goes towards investment into their personal savings accounts, in that yacht that we speak about. Now, Biden has done a terrible job of just, in general, attacking Donald Trump's record. He couldn't attack Donald Trump's lies. He couldn't say exactly why he's lying. Kamala Harris is a prosecutor. The people of America are the jury. Kamala is the prosecutor. She is going to cross-examine Donald Trump. She is going to go after his entire record. She is going to present her case to the jury. The voters will examine the evidence. And the voters are going to convict Donald Trump out of winning a second term. Donald Trump knows many of the people who work in the Heritage Foundation that crafted Project 2025. Donald Trump wanted to distance himself from Project 2025. This is how you know it's bad. It's bad because not even Donald Trump wanted to endorse Project 2025. Now, the people of America are going to win. Kamala is going to win. Gen Z hates Donald Trump. The shooter, remember, is Gen Z. Not every Gen Z is going to go out and grab a gun and try to shoot the president. That's not what I'm saying. But out of all people, it was Gen Z that featured the assassin the previous week. So that really should tell you that Gen Z, they hate Donald Trump. He's very unpopular among Gen Z because, again, climate change is going to matter more for Gen Z versus the boomer generation, the early part of Gen X. And it's not just the people that see Donald Trump as a threat to democracy. The government's also scared that Donald Trump is going to overthrow democracy because the shooter on the roof, everybody saw the shooter. If the people did, damn well the Secret Service did as well. They let the shooter shoot Trump because the government is also afraid that Trump is going to overthrow democracy. Many dictators have had assassination attempts against them. The military tried to kill Adolf Hitler. They tried to set off a bomb. They failed, but they didn't like Hitler. They didn't like all the power that he obtained. It has happened in the past where highly unpopular dictators among their inner circles have had assassination attempts. So absolutely the Secret Service let the assassin attempt to kill the president. So the threat to democracy is very real because we have witnessed it. Where Donald Trump told his base to fight like hell on January the 6th or else we're not going to have a country. He has zero business being in the presidential race. He is a convicted felon and he is a treasonous president who tried to overthrow the very document that conservatives claim to religiously love outside of the Bible, which is the Constitution, the same Constitution that says the vice president will certify the results of the election. Donald Trump had no regard for the rule of law whatsoever. And that is the reason why Donald Trump must be stopped at all costs. Well, you see, we're not going to have a problem because the vast majority of people don't want to see Donald Trump be reelected. Trump already lost the prior election. Joe Biden's legislative agenda has been remarkable. Kamala is not going to be president for only women like Hillary Clinton. She was a terrible candidate. She was a terrible campaigner. We're not going to have this I'm with her BS that it rubbed a lot of males the wrong way in 2016. Bernie Bros, who otherwise would have voted for Clinton over Donald Trump. The only people, Donald Trump has done nothing during his presidency except got health care for millions of people and gave the wealthy a huge tax break. Other than that, he's done nothing. He didn't bring our troops home from Afghanistan. Joe Biden did. Thank you very much, Joe Biden, for bringing the troops home. Donald Trump failed to do so. He didn't even bring them home from Afghanistan. He continued the bombing in Yemen over there. Trump continued the bombing. They didn't fight any wars. Continued the bombing in Yemen. Didn't bring the men and women home from Afghanistan. So that was another foreign policy win for Joe Biden. He brought the troops home from Afghanistan. These are the kind of things that Kamala Harris, it's not just bringing up Donald Trump's terrible record, but it's bringing up the legislative accomplishments of the Democrats. Now we don't look like Iraq. That's an exaggeration. We don't look like Iraq. Come on, look around. It hardly looks like Iraq. If it was Iraq, I'd already be gone. Come on now. Come on now. Come on, man. It hardly looks anything like Iraq. Have you been anywhere around the world? Do you know what it looks like in Iraq? Come on now. Come on. Hyperbole and exaggeration. That's the only thing Donald Trump has got. Because other than repeating the same lies all over and over and over again, he really has nothing to offer. The media doesn't even want to talk about Donald Trump's lies as much as they talk about Joe Biden's dementia. Just talk about Biden's record, biased media. He has delivered for the American people. You see, the media doesn't prioritize the country over their ratings. So screw the media. It's not just right-wingers that complain about the media. So-called liberal media doesn't talk about Joe Biden's accomplishments. I wonder why that's the case. Liberal media, right. Corporate media. American media is not liberal, it's corporate. Now, Kamala's going to win, obviously, because of Gen Z and the Black and Latino caucuses. They pretty much had Biden's backing, and they don't like Donald Trump. Now, what will happen is we'll have inflation because the amount of money that we printed, the economy is only growing at 2.9%, so it needs to grow quicker. We've yet to see all the effects from the Green New Deal and the CHIPS Act and all of that. But I do think that we will have inflation. And it is something that will help Ivanka in 2028. So basically, Republican Party is going to have nobody that's going to stand for any new ideas. And Ivanka's a liberal, and she is going to tell the right wing, hey, you need to support women's reproductive rights. You need to support some climate action because Trump is doing nothing to flip the vote, the independent and moderate vote that he needs. He can't just continue to pander for his fringe lunatic base. He's not doing anything to bring people in from the middle, independents and moderates and centrists. Certainly, never Trump or Republicans are still going to vote for Biden this election. How is Trump going to win over their vote? Ironically, the Republican Supreme Court, it's not just the Democrats imploding. The Republican Party is probably imploding harder because they're not doing anything to provide Americans a new platform. It's a joke. Probably one of the biggest things out there that Biden delivered on was bipartisan infrastructure. Donald Trump had both houses and he failed to pass a bipartisan infrastructure bill. The guy is a colossal failure. He is completely unfit for the presidency. Rex Tillerson called him a big fucking moron. He acts on impulse. He doesn't listen to his cabinet. Donald Trump is a joke. And again, he wants to be a dictator. He's a narcissist. He never thinks he's wrong. He never thinks he needs to listen to anyone. I'm the smartest guy in the room. I alone can fix this. And Donald Trump, probably his biggest failure out of all of them, was not the border, but he failed to unite the United States of America during a global pandemic. He failed to listen to the scientists. He prolonged the pandemic. We didn't enforce the lockdowns quickly. Big disaster. Donald Trump didn't care. He was just concerned that the numbers of the economy was going to look bad. The most ironic thing was all he had to do was be a leader during a crisis. He would have been reelected in 2020. The very irony, if Trump took the pandemic seriously, he could have won re-election, but he's a goddamn loser. Terrible leader. America has lots of losers if they think Donald Trump should be reelected. No wonder why the elite think there are a lot of dumb people in the country. There is. He's one of the worst presidents ever, Donald Trump. They think this guy should serve another term. He overthrew democracy. He divided Americans and didn't take a global pandemic seriously. This guy's a joke. Couldn't even deliver bipartisan infrastructure bill. This guy's a joke. He's going to say everything about the American people if Donald Trump wins another term because he has no business being anywhere near the White House. But I know Ivanka is going to offer something different for the GOP in order to be electable again. They got to support abortion, women's reproductive rights. They got to take climate action seriously. Because not even right-wing parties in Europe deny that climate change is happening. Kamala Harris is going to win the election. Kamala Harris is going to go after Trump's record, and Joe Biden failed to do so. And it's funny because I was very surprised to find out that the white female vote actually Trump did better in 2020 than in 2016. But the whole Roe versus Wade, let's infringe on women's reproductive rights. White women is another group of voters that certainly the Democrats are going to do much better on. So we will save our democracy from the autocratic disaster that is Donald John Trump. I don't think Kamala will be a good president. I think she'll be a terrible president. But first and foremost, we have to preserve democracy. A bad president can be thrown out of office. If voted out of office, we can replace him with a new president. But to have someone who wants to overthrow democracy, we are not going to keep the very fabric that this country was founded on. Because Kamala is bad and we have a recession in the next 4 years, which I think we will have a recession, then it's democracy. She'll probably lose the job. She won't win re-election, and that will result in Ivanka Trump will be the winner of the 2028 election. Ever since 2021, my theory was that I thought Biden would win the election and he would die, and Kamala would replace him. But he's dealing with the dementia, so he gets replaced before the election. But the pussy grabber Donald Trump was afraid of strong, independent women is going to lose to a self-confident, boisterous woman, Kamala Harris. The very thing that he's scared of is a very confident woman who's going to stand up for herself. And Kamala Harris, man, what a mean fucking bitch, I swear. She is going to obliterate Donald Trump, and he has shit in his underwear right now. She is going to attack the living shit out of J.D. Vance, who thinks that a violent husband needs to stay with his wife for the children. This J.D. Vance guy's a disaster. Now, I am predicting a male to be Kamala Harris's running mate. Because, again, Kamala can't be seen as only caring for women, so she has to have a male as running mate. That's my prediction for her running mate. We'll see a male as the running mate because, again, they can't just only pander to women. You can't make the same mistake that Hillary Rodham Clinton made in 2016. And I know she's going to speak about all the good things that Joe Biden has done to help the American people, all which did not happen under the presidency of Donald John Trump. And Alan Lichtman, the guy who predicted the last 10 presidents, he did predict Donald Trump in 2016. Replacing the incumbent hasn't been good, according to history. Lyndon Baines Johnson was removed from the ticket in 1968, but that was when the Vietnam War was unpopular. That wasn't because of something such as dementia where they're like, hey, this guy, he can't continue. So the comparisons just don't really mirror each other because of that. But certainly no recession, no major scandal in office. There's no recession. There's no foreign policy failure. Biden has delivered on the tax credits, the new Green New Deal jobs, the CHIPS Act. Biden was a very much better president than Donald Trump. But Kamala is a divider. She'll play identity politics. You see, Trump is far hated than Kamala, so attack dog is going to work this election, but I don't think the same rhetorical approach is going to work in 2028. I think Ivanka would be a much better orator, not not on the same level as Obama because he was brilliant. He spoke in he spoke for unity. Barack Obama. He didn't speak with a lot of identity politics until Republicans wanted to sabotage Obama at every turn. But I think Ivanka is going to speak from a rhetorical approach that will bring the independents in the never Trump Republicans and the centrist Democrats to the other side with the women's rights and the Green New Deal that the Republican Party will eventually have to get behind. They can keep the same economic laissez-faire uh, ideas, but as far as regulations, as far as the future of the planet, they're gonna embrace climate change in the future is which is interesting, right? Is big oil ever going to allow the Republican Party to get behind climate change? Now, I think big oil is going to buy stock for like the major companies that are going to be the key players for the Green New Deal. I think at some point they'll just invest in these green companies. Is what I think big oil is going to do. Because they have record-breaking profits, they'll invest in their own stock, and I think they got to invest in these companies. But again, the legislative agenda for Joe Biden is very popular for people, for moderates and people right down the middle. And people are sick and tired of Trump, and they want to help save our democracy. Now, technically, it's a democratic constitutional republic. We have a democratic process. We elect leaders. We don't have direct democracy. So really, we have a constitution. So technically, we're a democratic constitutional republic. We're not a republic. We're not a democracy. But technically, we are a democratic constitutional republic. So my theory, I mean, it was funny because I thought we'd have a libertarian revolution, and Social Security and Medicare are just very popular, so it wouldn't make a lot of sense to have an outright libertarian revolution. However, if they went from 35% down to 15%, they're not going to stop at 15%, the Republicans. They're going to give the wealthy even more tax breaks. They'll go down to 10% to 5%. That is extremism. And most of all, the tax cut from 35% for corporations to 15%, it didn't create any growth whatsoever. Donald Trump exploded the deficit, and this was even before COVID became reality. We were already heading towards that downward trajectory path until, and that's the thing. This is how you know corporate Democrats they still run part of the show. We're not back up to 35%. They said, hey, we go from 15% to 20%, but still 20% is lower than 35% for corporations in 2016. So it's time to call out corporate Two, they didn't pass the minimum wage bill either. So there's some failures that hardcore progressives need to highlight. And I mean, when you don't raise the minimum wage, when people in the money are not keeping up with inflation, that's how you create inflation. Is the money that's printed is it doesn't, the growth is not exponential to the newly created dollars. So when the money printed is more than the resulting increase in output, then that really is what causes inflation. So if we have expensive programs and the economy is not even growing at 3%, 3.5% to 4%, then that is inevitably going to cause inflation. So even if Harris wins, the people love the fact finally that fat, negative, toxic, waste of energy Donald Trump is finally gone. But we're still going to have inflation, and whoever wins this election, they're not going to win the next election if we have inflation or a recession as a result of inflationary pressures. So that is what is going to tilt the scales in the 2028 election, is inflation. I have all the faith in the world that Kamala is going to win. I know the entire agenda of Project 2025. Hopefully, that's not Ivanka's. Hopefully her platform. Used to be a moderate liberal. Hopefully, I don't think she's going to get behind Project 2025. Well, certain elements of Project 2025, women's rights, reproductive rights, and climate change, those parts of Project 2025, Ivanka will reject. Republican Party platform offers nothing for voters. Donald Trump wants to raise tariffs, but we have all this inflation, so now you're going to tax the cheap imported goods too. How's that going to help with inflation? See, this is what I'm talking about. There are no real ideas for America that Donald Trump has offered to the people. Kamala was saying we're going to build upon what we did during the past few years. We're not going to give billionaires tax cuts. We're not going to attack women's rights. We're not going to sell out our enemies to Vladimir Putin. It's time to bring back some goddamn energy that we are so lacking because of Joe Biden. Someone bring some freaking energy. Go on the attack dog against Donald Trump and his extreme unpopular agenda. The tax bill was largely unpopular. The Obamacare cuts were largely unpopular. And you're not for women's reproductive rights, and you're not for the Green New Deal. It's just, what do you stand for out except for corporatism? What does the Republican Party stand for? Of authoritarianism, the very thing that they claim to be, they're against. They're for dictators. The Republican Party has lost whatever spine it's had, and it's not every Republican that wants Donald Trump. Republican voters are sick and tired of Donald Trump too. We'll find out and see if the theories support themselves come November. But I'm not seeing any evidence that the Democratic Party is losing Hispanic and Black voters. I'm not seeing any evidence that what the Democratic Party has to offer is more unpopular than what the Republican Party has to offer. I'm not seeing any evidence that the Republicans, hoping for a huge, colossal event, such as a huge foreign policy blunder or recession, are going to happen. A recession won't happen for the next 3 months. Those are things that favor incumbents, according to Alan Lichman's is 13 points. Now I'm gonna watch Alan Lichman's stream because he went live on the air on YouTube, but I think if I had to guess, he's still gonna lean Democrat because again, there's no recession. The economy has done better. There's been no scandal. There's been no colossal foreign policy failure. And Biden has delivered with Obamacare expansion and a lot of these popular tax credits offered to and Biden's his campaign tried to get rid of junk fees, try to get rid of high overdraft fees. They're trying to get rid of these junk fees that Republicans just want to keep and do nothing about. At least Biden is getting rid of these junk fees that are very costly to the economy. So that's something that is one of Biden's accomplishments too. And Biden has lowered the price on insulin and some other prescription drugs out there. I know in America we stand for decency. Decency is going to prevail this election. When it's over, when it's all said and done, reality does have a liberal bias. The economy does better than the Democrats, said by no other than Donald Trump. Republicans they've lost 7 out of the last 8 popular votes. There's been no recession. Joe Biden has delivered. He has passed the most legislation than any president to date since FDR. He's been very active in the presidency. Kamala, you have to talk about what your party has done and what more you will do during your second term. When you do that and not focus the entire campaign on attacking Donald Trump, then we will win. Because all Hillary talked about was Trump. She didn't speak about what her campaign would do. Kamala will win. Whether Donald Trump has negative energy, whether he's a pussy grabber, whether the fact that he's a grifter, whether the fact that he cozies too much dictators, whether the fact that he only cares about passing tax legislation for the wealthy, whether the fact that Donald Trump absolutely bungled a response to a global pandemic, golfing every weekend over at Mar-a-Lago. See, that's the thing. The family that died from the Trump assassin, Donald Trump didn't even call that family. Joe Biden called that family. They didn't take Joe Biden's call, but Joe Biden still tried to call that family. Donald Trump couldn't even care less about the family who died at the hands of the assassin. Man, these people want Donald Trump to be reelected, man. These people have no sense of moral conscience whatsoever. These people are lost. But I know that these decent